Hello, I'm Mark Ellen. Thanks for clicking this word in your ear, the latest of hundreds of conversations David Hepworth and I have had on this podcast we started 17 years ago. Some with ourselves, others with musicians, authors, comedians, and other people we like. If you enjoy them and want to support us and keep it all coming and get extra entertainment, including the weekly quiz and a special event on your birthday, visit patreon.com/wordinyourear or just like or subscribe in whatever way you prefer.
Word down your way. Testing 2, 2.
Welcome to another Word Down Your Way, featuring in this case someone who, in the noble tradition of Louis Armstrong and Wildman Fisher and Lucinda Williams, started out as a busker, which we applaud mightily. Very nice to see you. Back on tour in April, I think. Eddi Reader, lovely to see you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm a big fan of your journey. You know, you were the guys that took over from Bob and I think Annie was there, and we just watched it avidly, didn't we? All us musos, we were like, wow, what's on tonight? And
you used to sit there on Tuesday night watching it, wondering why it was on so late. It was on after the snooker, usually.
It's very good that it was on after that
snooker.
Because Mum and Dad went to bed.
That's true. That's true.
Well,
you didn't
I remember
have to bear
when
their disapproval.
We used to watch it at college, and Bob was the presenter. And we'd all just sit there, just spending hours doing impersonations of Bob afterwards and falling about laughing, you know, and how tight the rhythm section was or whatever, you know. And at the moment I started doing it, I thought, is that what's happening to us now?
Yes.
Probably.
Oh. It was a magical show. I mean, we were watching just the other day clips of Alex Harvey. Alex Harvey and the sensational Alex Harvey band. I mean, unbelievable drama.
Really good on it.
Or magic music, witty poetry, just what you want when you're, 15, 16, wanting to know where to go when you don't want to be a mother of 22 kids and a home perm in one hand and a baby bath in the other,
Oh, poetry.
You're painting a very attractive picture there.
That was that was my path.
Yeah.
So you started off busking. Tell us about your busking.
Well, the busking was actually a step up. It just I was singing in my family house and all that, but and practicing, and my guitar I got when I was 11, and that was a massive deal getting me a guitar. My dad's family were very snobby about it. Oh yeah, working class and you get a guitar, that's very elitist of you, very Glaswegian, my family. Very trade union, what you pretending to be today, and yeah. I kind of, although I had this thing that I could do that I knew was very, very emotionally connected to me, like, so, for example, when I was 8, nobody talked to me in school except I was in the knitting class on a Thursday night, and I was 8 years old, and I knew I could do this thing. So I got my dad to write out, after he came home from welding work with all these oil fingers, he wrote out the lyrics of Love Me Tender. And he's like, what do you want that for, hen? And I'm like, I just knew I wanted to go into that class where nobody talked to me because everybody was pairing off at the age of 8. They were all getting, who fancied who. It was so weird. It was like who's got the latest shoes, who's got the nicest clothes, and who's got the best toys. And I wasn't really of that ilk. So I couldn't quite understand it, but I knew I could do this thing. So I asked Mrs. McDonald if I could sing. And it was almost an audible, what? Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay. All right. Let's see what this is. And of course, I got up and sung at the blackboard with my eyes closed. It was a bit like Kes. I brought in my hawk and I started singing, love me tender, love me true, never let me go. Got about 6 verses in that song. I didn't realize. And then at the end, they all were a bit silent. And then I was asked to go to all the other girls' house parties and, sing for the mums and all that. So.
That's wonderful. So when did you start the busking?
Well, then I went through my life like thinking I was going to go to art college or something, or thinking I was going to go to fashion and fabrics world. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to put myself in the sausage machine like everybody else and come out with something that I had qualification wise. But I got to 5th year, and my friend Eleanor Shaw, who played fiddle, she said, why don't you come down to the Irvine Folk Club? We'd moved out of Glasgow by that time. We were in this beautiful Ayrshire little hamlet called Irvine, and it had a folk club. Now, the alternative was Amanda's wet T-shirt night on a Thursday night. That was going on in 1978, 79.
Hashtag different times.
And Irvine was a very ancient Scottish town. So as comparison to Glasgow, where I had no kind of cultural background except trade unionism and that, but when we went to Irvine, there was a sense of history, there was a sense of identity, Scottish identity, and Hamish Imlach, the Tannahill Weavers, Boys of the Loch. I think Peggy Seeger and Ewan McCall used to come, and we'd all on a Wednesday night just pile in, and you could do a floor spot. So that was the first time I actually kind of managed to find a way of performing. So with Eleanor and I, we got up a folk set. So this is 79. And
what sort of songs did you do?
We did, there were 3 Drunken Maidens. We did Lord Franklin.
Yeah.
I then met a couple of guys who loved Rycooder and blues music, and they smoked a lot of dope, and we were just like, there was a kind of vibe of, this is a different way of singing. So they introduced me to Robert Johnson and, Come On in My Kitchen. We did a lot of that. I just sort of got a kind of Janis Joplin-y area. So there was a whole period of like 10 years, I think, or just before 85, when I was just exploring how I could sing. And the busking was a great training ground for that, because I didn't use a microphone, so I could project very well. And then by the time I got to doing radio jingles and backing vocals and stuff like that, I mean, the next thing was I just blagged my way into the Gang of Four and the...
What were the songs? I'm just interested in busking, having done some busking myself, but what were the songs that always made you money?
Tupelo Honey and what was the other one? She's the Sweetest Tupelo Honey and Burn That Girl, of course. That was always Van Morrison. Yeah. Oh, I'm a fortune. I remember we'd do All Along the Watchtower.
Very good.
Yeah.
And of course, The House of the Rising Sun, which was my favorite to sing. I just loved singing that kind of bluesy, folky kind of thing. And then I started to hang out with all the university students, and they kind of introduced me to Bob Dylan, Blood in the Tracks. And
so when you used to sing unamplified, I want to ask you this. How do you feel about when you see buskers nowadays who seem to appear in Piccadilly Circus with more equipment than the Gang of Four would have had in the early 80s? What do you think about that?
Well, to be serious about that question, I actually have thought about it, because when I was doing Brokeback Mountain last year in London for from April to August, just this playing a balladeer. And I used to go down the tube, so I'd be down in Tottenham Court Road and that. And of course, you see it here in Union Street or Argyle Street or whatever. What I notice is a kind of distance that a microphone gives you. For me, a microphone is very, it's instrumental to my work. So I use it to communicate whatever I want to communicate to myself. But when you're busking, to reach another ear, it somehow the amplification gets in the way of that. It's like there's a little barrier. People can walk by it easier, I think, than if they see you raw. I call it raw singing.
So that's an interesting point. Yes.
And I do believe that it probably gets them less money, because first of all, there's not enough cash around. People aren't carrying.
You got no cash, have they?
Yeah, so there's got to be a way of doing it. But certainly they do the tapping thing. And I often think, you're behind that keyboard and you're singing beautifully and playing beautifully, but nobody's listening, because it becomes, I think it was that French girl, there's a singer in France that I really love, and she said, it becomes like the Van Gogh in the bathroom, in the pub toilet. You just see the Van Gogh all the time and you don't notice it. So when you actually feel a raw connection between a voice and an ear, another human's ear, There is a magic
imposition.
that's in that I don't think they're hitting when they're playing with microphones on the street.
Yeah.
But then better for them, I suppose. Better for
Yeah. So who did you first go and see yourself? Can you remember as a kid?
My very, very first gig that I ever went to see was Bob Dylan at Earl's Court, because we got free tickets.
Really?
And I was 6 feet. That was all the hippies that I was hanging about with. They'd got these free tickets, and we all mucked in. You know, I was a great busking companion for all these hippies, because they were like 3 chords and a minor, and I was just attracting all these people to listen. Yeah. You know, and so they would take me everywhere, and you know, we could do a bit of busking, Eddie. And
so that was the first gig you went to, was Earl's Court.
Yes,
I was at those. Yeah, I went to 2 of them. 78.
You got the Blackbushe as well. I went to
I was at Blackbushe. Yeah, you too.
Well, my friend Fraser, who's still friends with me, who he went with, he's got a picture. Somebody took a bob from the back, looking at the crowd, and there's my friend Fraser, and there is my friend Boo Hurdine, and I'm off snogging the Earl of Moray's son at the back.
Is that in the picture?
That sounds like a song. Sounds
That's
like
a great way to
traditional
spend a Bob Dylan
song.
concert.
That is.
That's a good use of time. Snogging the Earl of Moray.
No, his son, not the Earl of Moray.
Earl of Moray's son. Sorry,
He was second in the line of getting the riches.
That's brilliant.
So what was your first professional engagement, would you say? Is that when you joined Gang of Four as a kind of backing singer?
It was kind of I was signing on before that. And I also was working in the knitwear factory. So I was working in the knitwear factory to get off the dole for that Christmas. I'd come back from the south of France, busked my head off, you know. We were having such fun, and we ended up spending a year in the south of France. And the other people showed up, you know, fire eaters and jugglers and trapeze people and all that. And we all traveled together for a while down the south. And I came home. I was always in good company. I had Walter and Angus and Dave, those guys that were playing Robert Johnson songs, and so there was a whole load of people that looked after me. So I wasn't alone. And I came home and had to get a job. So I got a job in the knitwear factory where my sister worked, and my other sister. Oh no, it was one sister worked there, and she wouldn't speak to me the whole time because I was a hippie, and she didn't like. It's just really weird when you're. What Billy Bragg calls it, the civilians. So there's civilians, and then there's us, and we're the weirdos. Like I mean, the people that love music, the people that live in that world where they want to be enticed by beauty and art, you know. And other people are like you watch Only Connect, and you'll get somebody going, all right, I don't like David Bowie, you know, or and you go, what, all of the stuff? And you go like the Beach Boys and not for me music, you know, and you think, wow, there are people like that. So yeah, my family were kind of half and half, like.
Right.
And, my brother was in the Trash Can Sinatras, is in the Trash Can Sinatras. He's a singer, Frank. And then there's me. And then my sister, my littlest sister, Rochelle, got work with Regular Music, the promoter. So she puts on gigs and kicks the arse of musicians all the time.
But when you were doing those tours, you were touring with Gang of Four, were you? And I think Eurythmics at one point. I mean, it's playing, certainly Eurythmics go huge venues, because Sweet Dreams was a big hit. So it must have been bizarre going out and playing arenas probably, and then going back to your own life and trying to get your own career started.
Oh, yeah. I always diverted myself with some man. So there was a Frenchman that I was just kind of putting on the shoulder pads for. It just felt great because I'd be busking in Rue Saint-Michel.
Yeah.
And all my French friends that I made, like Milou and Eric and Serge and all that, Remy, and I'd be like, hey, I'm in the Eurythmics. You don't know who they are, but here's some tickets, you know. And then they're all coming in with me going, Eddie, you have made it. You've made it. So I'd be like giving them all like the best of treatment. I kind of felt really blessed at all points in my journey. And I know that there's a great story in there. You know, it's not somebody that was having a hard time, you know. You get like the Wild Rose film, which is all about, they're in jail, they're junkies. I mean, there was that around, but I was actually joyous about what I was doing at all times. So when the Gang of Four finished, I stepped into the Eurythmics one, and then after that finished, I stepped into the Alison
But
Moy
you must have learnt a lot about stagecraft from being behind someone like Annie Lennox or whatever, or the Waterboss, just watching them on stage. I mean, what did you learn from watching them?
Well, I was obsessed. I'm actually OCD a bit about singing and that and voices. I was always doing impersonations of people, and I enjoyed what a voice could do. And so when Annie would be standing 6 inches in front of me, kind of thing, and I'd be at the side, I'd have to kind of see where her mouth was going to be placed and her throat, because once you saw what she was physically doing, what she was preparing for, you knew how to mask it, ghost it all the way through the song. And that was a real skill. I loved doing that. I love doing harmonies anyway, but my enjoyment in doing that was unbelievable. I kind of, once I'd mastered it, I was like, you could make one note and I could jump in with the harmony right away, you know? It was kind of a challenge to me. And I was in competition with myself a lot. And they just took off. Sweet Dreams had just been released in the middle of the tour I was doing with them. We did the Tube, I think. We did, I don't know if we did Top of the Pops. We definitely did the Tube. And then I think there was a lot of problem with the bloody cameramen were all, Annie wanted me in a kind of Theda Bara kind of femme fatale to her masculine, grey suited shock of skinhead red, and I think the cameraman didn't get it, so they're all like, where's she? Let's get up her skirt. Oh, she's so glittery. Oh, that girl there, you know. And I think it was difficult to have just the one. So after me, they got 3, all wearing little bowl cut wigs.
Right.
So that was a way of dealing with that, so that the focus could go back to.
It's kind of odd, isn't it? Because it's such a strange format that you take for granted, isn't it? The backing singers, there they are, you know, in a 3 or whatever, you know, and lots of people don't look at them and don't think about them. The thing I always find myself thinking is those people are every bit as good as anybody else on the stage.
Yeah.
The difference is one person's the star. You know,
Yeah.
there's a hierarchy there, isn't there? You know,
Absolutely. There's hierarchy everywhere. So when I was a backroom boy, I would call myself that, backroom guy. So I'd be a backroom person. And so me and all the musicians got on. I'd be hanging out with them. We'd be talking to each other about maybe a gig at Ronnie's. Oh, I'm doing one on Wednesday. You want to come down, jump up? So there'd be a lot of that passing between musicians. Once I got a number 1 with Perfect and Fairground Attraction, none of them would talk to me. It was like I was then suddenly in this other place where they felt awkward.
yes.
And
also envy, presumably.
Well, of course, we've all got a bit of what about me in our heads, but certainly I think because I come from where I come from, there's nothing special about you. That's the key. Not that you're not lovely, beautiful, good, great, creative, wonderful, but we all are. You know, that's the key with my upbringing and my conditioning. So I could never understand that kind of English difference. There was a difference. Some of the lassies got very jealous, and some of you're picking up my guitar, don't touch my guitar. You know, there was a bit of that. I never got that in Scotland or in the circles, the folk circles that I lived in. So I didn't understand it. And then
presumably there can be no backing singer who doesn't, in their own imaginings, picture themselves under the spotlight. You know, that's the ambition.
Actually,
rather just be a backing singer.
To be honest, you know, Debbie Reynolds and Singing in the Rain is quite a nice ambition. You know, be behind the curtain. Don't have to put your makeup on, get your roll, do the knitting while you're singing a couple of harmonies. I mean, I had a fantasy about that. I thought that'd be great. Actually, I could just then I don't have to worry about the big upfrontness, and I'm entertaining you allness, which I still got a bit about me. I know how frightening it is to be in front of a crowd and have to, like, if somebody says to me, you've got a gig, I'll go, when is it? They go, Saturday night. What time on Saturday night? Because is there somebody after me? Because I want somebody after me to get them on. If they're all drunk and dancing, that I'm happy. But unless it's that's a festival. But if it's in a theatre, then I'm okay. But I think it's another skill entirely to be an Alex Harvey. You know, an Alex Harvey is just when you watch him, a master, like an actor, a master actor, and Michael Mara,
But that's a different thing, isn't it? Alex Harvey, his version of Next, which I think you saw on the Old Grey Whistle Test, I mean, that's theatre, that's cabaret, it's rock cabaret, it's theatre, isn't it?
Actually, what I saw was compliments to the chef.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you've got to watch. They're all behind Zal Clemenson, and they're all from Glasgow, like, and his brother died of an electric shock. He was Maggie Bell's man.
Stone the Crows,
yeah. And at that time, if we're talking late 70s, which is where I kind of learned what was around, there was Cado Bell and Stone the Crows, and
Cado Bell. Wow,
yeah,
that's a name I've thought of for a long time.
Do you remember Chow Parrot, Chou Parrot? No. Very obscure Frank Zappa Glasgow band, and they used to play like the
Chou Parrot.
Yeah, we called them Chow Parrot.
Chow Parrot. Wow, Dave, I don't think either of us have ever heard of them.
Cado Bell.
Cado Bell. Oh, yeah, I remember
thought of that name for a long, long time. My God.
Café Jacques.
Oh, Café Jacques.
I loved.
Café Jacques.
I saw them at the Hammersmith Odeon. They're brilliant.
Was Café Jacques?
They did a great version of Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City by Bobby Bland.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was all those guys around, so the average white band had made it.
Yeah,
They were all just guys that were playing around. And my actual first training ground, I was doing the folk clubs with Eleanor, and I looked up where the nearest studio was. So there was a studio called Sirocco, run by Clark Sorley in Kilmarnock. So Kilmarnock's 5 miles away from Irvine. And where I'd come from, which was Paris and, the left bank and people in Saint Michel, and just cool to be what I am, right? Nobody judging you. And then I found that when I came home, it was all a bit like, you've got to get a proper job, and you've got to, what are you going to do with your life? What, you want to be a songwriter and a singer? What are you talking about? You're an idiot. What is this? And I looked for a studio, and there was one in Kilmarnock, and that was it. And I've chapped the door, and I said, do you need any singers? and they opened the door, and these were all like Cado Bell, Mike Ogletree played the drums for one of the incarnations of Simple Minds.
Simple Minds, yeah.
They had this studio that was an outside broadcaster place. They recorded Bob Marley in an outside broadcast. So the desk was amazing, and Clark pulled me in. Of course, I could do real harmonies, and they taught me about mic technique and a pencil in front of the mic to make sure your P didn't pop when you were singing P's and S's, and then...
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. Tell me that again. A pencil in front of the mic. Works as a pop shield, does it?
Well, it was usually an old pair of tights, but yeah, I mean, a bit disgusting. It'd be somebody like Mrs. Pop's the cleaner's tights that she took out and broke or whatever. But anyways, they had that, but there's a thing what you do that you hang with a string, a pencil in front of your mouth. So when it spreads the air.
Oh, wow.
So you don't.
Well, I genuinely learned something.
Yeah, I learned something. That's good.
I don't know,
I'm going to picture people now singing with the pencil dangling in front of them on a piece of string.
Well, they weren't. If you learn your mic technique, you don't
need to.
You don't need it.
Yeah, sure.
I was an amateur, so I was just like, what?
Right.
I wasn't even looking at the mic sometimes. But now I was just wondering about how much I learned, talking to you guys, because, of course, you and the Gang of Four are so embedded in my marrow now. It's like that was where I felt that I'd kind of come into an arena that I could hopefully, conquer in some way. But I had to come and live in London. And Lou Edmonds of Pill, do you know him?
Yeah, he was in The Edge. I remember him very well.
Yeah, big, tall, lanky guy. He was going out with a Russian stripper, I think. Anyway, he had said to me, can you sing on this demo of mine? And I did. And it was Svetlana, about the first woman in space, and Russian woman. And then he gave me the keys for a prefab in Lambeth because somebody was moving out. So I had the prefab in Lambeth for free for 8 years of my life. Just lived in London on just like, it's called something Prince Road, and then Lambeth Walk is just here. And mine was Walnut Tree Walk. And I lived there for 8 years, and I did all my sessions and all my jingles.
Incredible. Actually, talking about the sessions,
prefab. Wow. God.
We must ask you about the jingles, because you were talking earlier about how you did good impressions. So you did a series of radio jingles, didn't you?
Yeah, I did Rivita.
So I want to hear.
What did you do for Rivita?
Your Rivita ad. What did you sing?
Well, I just did it there, but I'll just do it again. Ready? Get the pencil out. Yes. War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. It's just something like that. It's very, very minimal.
That was a Rivita ad?
Yeah. The woman walking along the beach with a tape measure around her waist, like reading 12 inches.
Incredible.
And then I did Tesco's, which I got sacked from because I couldn't quite get the words right. This time I was so bored I could just go, I'd go in chewing gum and go, is that all right? And then leave, get my 50 quid. I always had 50 quid. It was just, I'd invoice 50 quid because I didn't know how much you charge for things like that.
Should have been more than that, surely.
Well, I just did that all the time. And then I did this William Lowe advert when I was a little girl. And that was filmed. They filmed me singing, it was a supermarket in Scotland called William Lowe. So I was singing higher standards, lower prices. No, that was the Tesco advert. William was down, 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 down. You could be saving money when you buy, so give it a try. So I was doing that. And then the Tesco advert was supposed to be higher standards, lower prices, Tesco. And I kept singing higher prices, lower standards, Tesco, because I was so lost in not listening to whatever the fuck it was,
Wow.
But I got my 50 quid, and that supplemented my dole after and in between tours with.
So did you occasionally hear those ads or whatever on the telly and nudge people and say, that's me?
No, I just let it all. As our Saint Louis says, leave it all behind you. That's my Louis Armstrong. Yes, leave it all behind you.
Yes. Yeah. Is any of this material reprised in your upcoming tour? Do you ever talk about on stage this kind of rich range of experience you've had?
Sometimes I talk about. I mean, at the moment, or the past couple of years, I've been revisiting in my head the storytellingness of being brought up with a bunch of folk that love to drink and sing the American songbook, because that infected me with what beauty is in music and how you could change the atmosphere in the kitchen. Like, because your granny's making the soup, your granddad, Scotsman, so tough he was frightening, but loved his wife so much he nearly told her. That kind of guy. And there with his whiskey, giving it, get me my dinner, woman. But when he sung, he turned into a flapper girl from the 20s, and all the women and all the men, like, just for a 2-bedroom flat in Maryhill, putting on their makeup and their bouffants and their suits and brill creaming, shining their hair and getting off on, you made me love you, I didn't want to do it, and all that stuff. And I just was in the middle of it as a 5-year-old right through to 14, 15. And I knew that I had a thing, but when I was with them, they had the thing, and I kept it quite quiet to me. And then, of course, I I started singing in the toilet. That was the thing. I got a guitar and I started. My mum, I'm the oldest of 7 children, and we lived in a 2-bedroom flat. And
Wow.
I would commandeer the toilet. So I think the reverberations of me commandeering the toilet have gone down in the centuries. My sister still is upset with me because she couldn't get into the toilet because I'd be sitting there with my guitar singing Your Cheating Heart, or learning my 3 chords and stretching my voice. And then when we moved to Irvine, before I started in the folk clubs, I'd sing in the toilet there, but we had 2 toilets. So, hey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, social experiments started to go up in the world. You know, council estates started to give you a bit more room. Yeah. And I would be singing in the toilet in the morning. My mum's neighbour, Betty Weir, would come in and she'd go, Hen, I loved your song last night. That was so nice hearing it. So I must have travelled all down the street through the window, me just singing and learning Joni Mitchell. Oh my God, learning how to tune the guitar a different way. My cousin Alan taught me he played in a kind of army band in the pub, and he taught me how to do an E tuning and a D tuning and a C tuning. And so once I had that, crikey, the world was open again in another way. And to bring it all home, I found a tuning on Miles of Isles by Joni Mitchell. You know, when she's tuning up, she's getting it together and somebody's shouting, you're better than all those guys or whatever, you know, and she laughs. But I thought, I'll learn that tuning. What is she doing? Right. Okay. So I learned it. And in that tuning, which meant putting the E string way, 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 way up, I got My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose. I got The Winter It Is Past. I got Green Grow the Rashes. Oh, I got all the Burns stuff that I then started to develop. But that was, and then Greg Leese, you know him, Greg Leese, the guitar player. He's like a transatlantic session, plays with K.D. Lang, plays with all those people.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Leisz, isn't it? Yeah. That's what yeah.
Well,
okay.
I was teaching him. I always teach people this tuning. I'm going, look, this is what it is. And he goes, you're really damaging your guitar like that because you're tuning it too high. So he taught me another way of doing it, down a tone. And so... Do
you retune on stage in front of people?
No, I try and have the 2 guitars so that one's
right.
and the other one.
I always think that takes real nerve to do that.
It does take real nerve. And there's people that are masters at it. You know, Dick Gaughan can be tuning away, telling a big story.
Telling a story, exactly.
How do you do that? You know, I've got to go, shut up, everybody.
I saw Richard Thompson do 1,000 Years of Popular Music at Sadler's Wells, and he was on his own on stage all the way through it, retuning the guitar.
Always. Just a genius.
Astonishing to see some of these
people. They were all our heroes. I mean, Hamish Imlach, do you know him?
Yeah, I know the name, yeah.
Billy Connolly always used to go on about him. In fact,
he wrote cod liver oil and the orange juice that the Merry Wallopers are having a hit with or whatever. Yeah. But he used to come to my house and he taught me a lot about nerves. I'd say to him, Hamish, I don't know how to play the guitar and sing because I'm so nervous about presenting anything of me to somebody out there. Although I had this thing that I loved, I didn't know. I used to say to God, why have you given it to me? I'm rubbish at that. I'm not a center of the room person, you know. I'm kind of sit at the side or go in and wash the dishes person at the party, you know, although I love singing. And he would say, you have to go to the back of the crowd when you're at a gig, and you have to be at the bar. Just stand there and imagine you are, I suppose it's a gestalt thing. Imagine you are the audience. So you are listening to whatever's coming next. So when you're there, you're actually singing to yourself.
All right.
And
you imagine that you're that person at the bar.
All the people.
So that's who you're projecting to, the person at the bar at the very back whose attention you're trying to get hold of.
And everybody, you know, you can make everybody you. You can just make everybody you. I mean, I had terrible trouble with nerves, especially after Fairground split. You know, I was like, everybody's expectation is going to be, you know, for that, and I'm not that, and I'm something else, and I want to do more, you know, and I loved my band. And it was personality.
How did that feel to be back on stage with them? Because that's an amazing thing, wasn't it? It was about 34 years, I think, that since you'd split up, you reformed, toured, you made another album. How did that feel being on stage again with them?
I was kind of determined to say to the fellas, when we were in our late 20s, we were idiots. And I want you to know that these songs are still appreciated. I'm still gigging. I'm still earning a living with it. I love that I can set up a gig in Ireland or in Scotland or in England or France or wherever I want to go. And I can definitely pull those songs out of the hat. And I can pull out other things like Boo Hurdine's work or my own work. And I just wanted to share that with them somehow. And I felt that it was right to do it, to kind of close a circle and see who we are now and play. I loved it. There was moments. There was a time in Bristol. We did a gig in Bristol, and the three boys all came from there. And at some point in their lives, they lived there. So all their friends and family were there. And Mark's sisters came up to me and said, "Thanks for making my brother happy." And it broke my heart. I just felt, this is exactly what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get together and go, weren't we great? Wasn't it wonderful? And thank you for everything, really.
Well, it worked. What can people expect on because your solo tour is in April, I think it is? What can people expect from that?
Yeah, I'm going in March. Well, I don't know because I don't have a set list. I'm the same girl I've always been. I just kind of live in the moment and whatever wants to come out comes out. But the boys are great, Boo Hurdine, he's amazing. And John Douglas comes with me, my husband, from the Trash Can Sinatras. And then Alan Kelly, who's award-winning Irish accordion player, and Kevin Maguire. And then we have Paul on the sound. And by the way, the sound man never gets enough credit because without a sound man, I'm rubbish. So I always have to have somebody that knows how to mic and create a sound for the audience that I would like to hear myself. I hate it when you go to gigs and you can't hear all the instruments in it. And so I have Paul Ashbrown, and we just show up and I tell little stories and I sing songs, and it seems to be all right still, and even I think.
Well, you should throw in the Tesco ad and the Ryvita ad as well. that would work. It worked for me.
You should have a commercial break in the middle. That's what you should do.
That's right. Do all your own commercials. That's brilliant. Oh, it's been so nice to talk to you. Fantastic.
I'm so honoured that you've asked me because, when we used to watch you guys, it was like, God, this is a tough gig. They're doing this and it's the middle of punk and everybody's like spitting at everybody. and everybody's been a bit cynical and dry, and Bob's not there with his calm down.
But the weird thing you're saying about seeing all this stuff is that things like Whistle Test got a completely new lease of life on YouTube 40 years later, whatever. Because if you want to see somebody playing live, they'll be there.
They're bound
to some shape or form.
Put the name of any group in and just put Old Grey Whistle Test. Something will come up.
Yes.
And in David Mike,
I was a big
something
fan
we can't even remember, actually. It's us introducing them. You think, wow, did that happen? But the white fear of live performance, I think, of live television.
I'm going to have to go back after this chat and have a look and see if I can see your appearance with the Gang of Four, with me probably introducing.
That's on there. I've seen it. I looked it up this morning because I just found out you've done it, and there you are. It's really good. You sing, what's it called?
I love
Woman in Uniform. Man in Uniform.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
That's it, yeah.
You must be joking. Oh, man, you must be joking. John King was like, you're the only singer in this band.
Yes. That's the truth.
Well, brilliant. How
God
nice to
bless
talk
Andy,
to you.
though. God bless Andy. I think he was the first COVID victim, just not to mention the big.
No,
I think he
yeah,
was.
one of
He
them.
was. Lovely guy.
He went to China and then he came back and he was in New York and that was it.
Nobody knew what was wrong with him. That's true.
Yeah. Love to him. Love to him. He was wonderful. I was so scared of Andy Gill. Oh, Andy Gill. He was like this big shut up. Don't smile. What are you doing? Smile. It's a real dour Scot. Actually, he wasn't Scottish, but his background, something like Andrew McCallum Gill.
Yes. Yeah, you're not here to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And he did that. And then I met them at Fuji Rock. And I said, I've got to stay. I was on at like 3:00 in the afternoon. They were on at 7:00 at night. And there was Coldplay on and all these other folk. But I said, look, Gang of Four are coming at 7:00. Do you guys mind if I just hang around and wait? And then I hung around, and it was Dave Allen. Sarah wasn't there, and John and Andy and Hugo. And I just went, hiya. And then me and Andy, they were doing all the same things. Andy had to have a slash just before they're supposed to go on, like 1 minute before they go on. Andy go, I gotta have a slash. So and he did the same thing.
God, old habits. Amazing. Well, look, thanks very much. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you.
And we'll post the tour dates and so forth underneath this.